to support the arts, why it's a good idea. Let's start with our usual mantra that the arts are an economic development engine. And the Americans for the Arts reports that $1 invested in the arts results in $7 of revenue for the government. That's a national number. They did a national study. And so that means that people are employed in the arts. That means people are buying tickets to arts events. It means people are coming to visit the artistic events like Art Around, and they're spending money in that city and keeping the economy rolling. We have a few very iconic that people may recognize up there. Our goal is to have something iconic in the city at some point when it's not quite there yet. And here's a very telling picture. We were designated the Arts Agents of Roswell, basically out of the Arts and Culture 2030 study. And so I would ask, why Roswell Arts Fund? And there's sentience over there in heart of Roswell Park. It's hard to remember it was just a piece of green grass before that was there. And it really enlivens up the park, I believe. As we took down the heart over to East Roswell Park entrance over there, people said, I love that sculpture. Where's it going? Because we were deinstalling it because it's temporary art. But if you remember, it was just, again, another piece of grass next to a trout. I could invent a new tagline, because without art, it's just an empty space. So, what have we done? We did our mid-year review, of course. Just a quick reminder. Successful project completions. We're way ahead in terms of where we thought we'd be in purchasing permanent art for the city. We're up to 10. From an asset value standpoint, $182,500 of sculptures purchased. That's a panorama of them. The two projects on the far right side, one is the performing arts feasibility study, of which there were 3 phases, which is scheduled for, which is scheduled for, I'm going to echo.
Welcome.
Yes. I think it's presented on the 8th. It's on your work session then. And of course, the guiding light of the Arts Fund is the Public Art Master Plan, which I believe everybody, Mayor and Council, has a copy of. And that allows us to do a couple things. Make sure we're doing best practices for the city on behalf of the arts. And it lays out a roadmap and a strategy for us to implement public art throughout the city. So, the budget part. A couple of key things, and I'll go through each line item real quickly. Might notice we've cut our operating expenses down $25,000. Part of that is understanding what these projects cost better, but it's also a key to that is that for any startup, and I'm an entrepreneurial startup kind of person, you need money to get the organization going. You have to incorporate, you have to get board, you need a 501c3 letter. You can't ask for grants in your first year of operation because you have no history and nobody wants to give you money. It takes time to get started, and that's what we have used some of that operational money for. Marketing and outreach, small bump up on that. We are have an all arts website. We allow artists to register themselves so that we have an artist registry here in Roswell for the surrounding area. We have an arts calendar we're working on so that all arts events in the city and surrounding areas can be posted and people can go to one place and find them. Obviously, the Art Around Sculpture Tour, that we had a slight uptick on that. Largely, in expenses for this 4th year of the Art Around have gone up, just as expenses in general have gone up. And we're getting better at understanding the intrinsic costs of that. For example, I've managed a theater, so if you wanted a production budget, I could do that really easily for you. But for sculpture tour, no experience, and bases are very expensive, and then bases are very important because if a sculpture blows over in the wind, somebody could be hurt. Everybody, I think, is familiar with the biannual Artists at the Table meeting, where we have artists come in and meet with the department heads, talk about projects that those departments are doing and how art could be incorporated in those projects. And we had a very successful first meeting last fall. The next meeting's coming up in the next month or so. We have a public art administrator. We are doing a lot in conjunction with the city and with our programs, and we just didn't have enough time based on the prior year's numbers. We kicked off the project, but along with the public art master plan, which guides us in our public art selections and processes, we have a professional, Emma, sitting over there, as our public art administrator, to also take that and again do best practices and make sure we got the best art and best art policies and procedures in the city that we can. The artistic bike rack, the status of that, as I said in the mid-year review, was we have had a selection committee meeting. We've picked artists and representations of that. We're looking at locations, particularly in the parks. I guess I can say this: we heard there might be an ordinance or a resolution in the city that says you can only use the R bike racks. If so, we'll be back asking for permission to put artistic bike racks out. So we want to continue that. It turns out that, again, we had thought bike racks would be less expensive than they were, and we put out a call for them, and it turned out on average, because we put a cap on it, they're about $5,000 to commission each one and fabricate it. And we didn't even ask, we turned away the people for the $20,000 bike racks. We had the performance space feasibility study, as I mentioned. You'll be hearing the report back from the consultants on that, which again was very positive. So this area can support a 500-600 seat theater and theater space, performance space, had an operating budget, all that stuff. You'll hear about that. But we're done. We believe that, as you'll hear from the study, that it needs to go to the private sector for fundraising and construction, not be a city project. 2 new projects, Arts Coalition and Creative Placemaking. I'll talk about creative placemaking first. The idea of creative placemaking was, as we heard in the first Artists at the Table meeting, was the idea that we should, not as strict as zoning ordinances and regulations are in the city, but we should have art zones. So in a historic district, you might have certain guidelines for the art that goes there. At gateway areas like 120 coming from Cobb County, or Atlanta Street coming across the Roswell Road Bridge, or go up Alfred Highway to Gateway with Alfreda, or George Landing on Holcomb Bridge, etc. Those could be gateway areas, and we could define what types of art would be appropriate for there. We could define utility areas like the sanitation station out by the recycling center, what kind of art should go there, what kind of art should be in a small business or an industrial area. And that's to define that and get artists, department people working together to come up with a map. We would also like to create an inventory of sites for the temporary sculptures, for the permanent sculptures we've purchased for the city, for bike racks, and for other art. Might be places in the city where murals would be good. Might be places where there's a stone retaining wall, for example, that we might do artistically. Native stone is very nice, but maybe a mosaic, maybe a mural, maybe some other treatment could be good. And we could identify a lot of those areas and opportunities. And that's creative placemaking. And then the Arts Coalition, we don't want to create that, 2 things. We don't want to do the creative placemaking in a vacuum. We want to take the ideas of the creative placemaking and involve the citizens of Roswell with town hall type meetings or homeowners meetings and get feedback on that plan and how it might relate to the area that they live in. And we want to take those ideas out to the public and get feedback. And we had a little bit of pictures here, so marketing and outreach. Oh, that's me. These are some of the marketing events we had, and you can see the happy citizens of Roswell there. You can see our piano we did. That's another inventory of spots we'd like where we could put the Play It Again pianos and just have people come up and play music. It's great. Here's these are the sculptures that are new for this year's Art Around. Anybody who's a Stargate fan might recognize that Stargate there. But these are the sculptures that are going up right now. I think most of them are up, except for the one that's going at Variant, which is kind of waiting on North Cross Street construction. Here are the bike rack ideas that we had. Again, and it turns out the way you buy some of these things is you buy them in sets. You might buy one set for $5,000 to get you 3 bikes, and if you had 2 sets of it, you could get 6 bikes, that kind of a thing. So we'd like to be able to be more flexible next year. This was from the artists around the table. There's a picture of the artists around the table. But some of the ideas came out of signal box art, crosswalks, sidewalk art, things like that. And even some ideas, that's the, I think the waste transfer station over there had some ideas that might be good there. Make it not look like a waste transfer station. And this is, as I said, the creative placemaking, how we could create a map of the city and have an art inventory, places that need art. And then, again, trying to bring the artists and the people together in the city. Again, this is economic development. At the end of the day, we'd like everybody in the city of Roswell to be an arts ambassador. When they go out and visit relatives around the country, talk about the art we have here, and talk about bringing people here to come see it. Now, we need to have some more iconic art than sentience, I think, but that's certainly a goal for the Arts Fund. And I think that's me. Yeah, the 2 things of interest. The April 8th, as I noticed, I'm sure you'll all be here. It's a work session. Forum Space People Study presentation. And then Thursday, April 18th, hopefully it's on everybody's calendar, is a ribbon cutting just right over here between City Hall and Smith House up towards Alfred Highway. That was me. I think it's a question.
You have a quick question on the numbers?
Yes.
If you can put the slide.
Oh, sure. There?
Yes. So, can you explain better about the public art administrator?
Yeah.
50,000.
Yeah. So let me give you our goal on that. As a new organization, we have a good counting system. We are now up on a good counting system. But we didn't have a good feel for how the public art administrator would be allocated to projects. Really, a public art administrator is just like any project management type of person. They're responsible for managing an art project as opposed to a road paving project, something like that. And so her responsibilities happen to include managing art around. So the deinstallation, getting the artists here to get their things removed. If we need like a crane to lift it up, some of them are very heavy, as you've probably seen. It takes a crane, got to get a crane there, got to get a person to help out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then same thing as you move forward in the installs, got to make sure the artist gets here. And by the way, artists are not great with timekeeping. And we have to have a crane there and have somebody to help do the installation and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of coordination and management, just like if you're paving a road or putting a new sewer pipe in or something like that. She also administers the Artists Around the Table project, and then she'll also do the creative placemaking project I mentioned. Now our goal is, and what she's doing, we have a tool called Team Gantt, which is an online cloud-based tool where she records all of the tasks for all of these projects so that we have memorialized them, 1, and 2, we can track the time that they take. As we capture that information, we can take that and then apply it to the project. I know in the city, if somebody says they're going to pave a road, there's the paving, there's the workers, and there's the management. We just don't have the experience to date to tell you what that management component was, so we line itemed it as we learned it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it sounds to me more like an operations person.
It's really project management. So, for example, if the city was to go to a project management office type of a environment, which everybody knows I like, then I would suggest that our person be involved with that, particularly as you look at the Artists Around the Table and you look at public projects where you're managing, let's just say you're managing construction of a water tower, that's these folks managing that, and then the art that might go on there is managed from the other side. And that cost of that would just be built into the cost of the project. That's our goal.
And Lawrence, if you don't mind, I'd just like to answer, that it is a specialized skill, someone who has an art administration degree and has done that similar work for other cities. And she's
We hired a
not
professional.
only, does the call, professional who does the call for artists,
Yes.
who manages and facilitates the selection panels, and then also just works closely with the city, with Gary and with Jeff and with the rec commission, regarding policies and placement and that sort of thing. So it's, a pretty high, a specialized skill in the arts.
Yeah, to keep the operation going.
Well, yeah, to do the projects that the city
Right.
wants us to do, exactly.
Okay.
I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
How many people do you employ?
We do, first off, we use contract folks because we don't have any actual full-time people. We are at 3 part-time people right now. And of course, you have a board. I'm a volunteer. Board members are all volunteers that help out on
'Cause
this
I
project.
noticed you've got office administration up on top, and then the public art administrator is an over 42% increase. And is she part-time?
Yes, but we're
That
going
you
to.
decided she needs to work?
She was working when we envisioned it last year and did the ask, it was like for 2 days a week. And she's, most of this year already worked 3 days a week. And if we look at the workload we're projecting, she still won't be full-time probably. But probably up to 4 days a week.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Okay, thank you so much. We're on to our next
Sure thing.
item,
Thank you. Good stuff.
which is the Historical Society.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Kevin Bamford. I'm the incoming president of the Roswell Historical Society. Prior to that, I was the treasurer for about three and a half years. So, been involved for a little while. So, it'll be quick. We're pretty painless, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. I'll start out with the numbers this time. And some of this will make sense in a minute, but our ask this year is the archivist salary is $30,000, which was standard that we've been asking for. Cemetery restoration up a little bit, $80,000. I'll explain that in a minute. So total ask is $110,000. Archivist salary includes payroll, taxes, and expanded hour coverage. We're open on Wednesdays now as well. Cemetery restoration funds are managed by the Rec and Parks Department, and we collaborate on the priorities for improvement projects. And 2019 and 2020 funding for a new retaining wall along Highway 9 to stabilize the existing wall, cover the concrete facade with stone, and install safety railings. Estimates right now are running upwards of 150. I think they've gone to 2 bids thus far, 160, 168, somewhere around that number. So let's see. That's kind of where I'll dig into the numbers a little bit. Kind of what we're asking for as far as the cemetery goes is generally we ask for 50, and that kind of covers things. And what we did this past year is we knew the wall project was going to be taking off, so we kind of had leftover, a rollover, if you will, into this current year. So right now in our account, we have 98,324, and really our hope is the project starts this year, and it will carry over into next year. And so to make that accomplishment happen, what I'm trying to do is for fiscal year 21, instead of the 50, we will go back, we'll only ask for 20 that year and take the 30 from that year and add it to the 20 year so that we have enough to complete the wall project. And then it'll go back to ticking along how it normally has. Fiscal year 22 will be around 35 and then back up to on 23 to 50. And then the next one, let's see. So just kind of give you an idea of what we've done in the cemetery thus far. Completed ground survey of the grounds with a ground penetrating radar. creation of maps based on the survey work created, which we have here tonight if anybody wanted to look at. Implemented a safe tree program that continues to run about $6,500 a year. Surveillance cameras were added and signage was installed. And security cameras have reduced vandalism and are capturing over 2,000 triggers per month. And that's just covering a portion of the north side of the cemetery. So the south side still needs cameras, but if you think of that, 2,000 triggers in a month is a lot. There's a lot of traffic within the cemetery. 2 water meters were installed, and some erosion control plants were added to help with erosion issues. But improved landscaping is contingent on water restoration, so water restoration is estimated to be about $30,000. And that we've taken out a couple years. We're trying to get the wall project as the priority. The Arnold Mill Wall plot circa 1875 was rebuilt. Signs indicating correct traffic flow throughout the cemetery were installed. Crusher run gravel was also installed on the south side, and 3 Victor Stanley benches and 5 matching trash receptacles were installed on both sides of the cemetery. And then, it doesn't show up very well here, so I have the larger version. If you want to look at it. But this is the wall project. And this is with Parks and Rec currently. So we're kind of walling a fence along Highway 9. There already is sort of a wall there, but we're shoring it up and creating more of an aesthetic facade to Highway 9, which is the most traveled there. That says about 143, but it's gone higher than that since we did the presentation. So we're really looking at 2 years of funding allocation for this project. So as I stated, our current year balance with the city is $96,520. And then we're looking at installing water lines and spigots roughly about $15,000. The additional security cameras will be $1,700. Again, the Safe Tree program is $6,500. That's an annual cost. And then additional parking and surveillance signage around $850. Trying to redo the parking area around the animal clinic there. We have a parking section behind it. So what we continue to try and do via private fundraising, continue to repair monuments. We just had a cleaning this past Saturday. So now we're up to 157 repaired and over 1,000 cleaned. Published a quarterly newsletter reporting the repairs and updates and events held. Research and tell the stories of those that rest there through the performance of Beyond My Stone and development of tours. That's a future want. Beyond My Stone is a current program that we do every year. But we're really trying to emulate some of the things that happen in other cemeteries around the area and kind of do some tours that we can develop for that. Big project right now is locate descendants of those in Old Roswell Cemetery, record their stories, photographs, letters, etc., to be housed in the Historical Society and the Research Library and Archives. And then again, to honor the veterans that are buried there by placing American flags on the graves and participating in Wreaths Across America, which we have been doing every year. Moving into the Research and Library Archives. The request for this year, again, is $30,000, and that's the archivist's salary. Expanded hours, now open on Wednesdays. And things that we're doing, we collaborated with Atlanta History Center for the interactive Roswell display at the Cyclorama. So when you're at the new Cyclorama exhibit and you're clicking on parts of the city or parts of different towns, when you click on Roswell, Elaine helped with some facts and some photos that go along with that. We're partnering with North Fulton Historical Societies to share and showcase the Roswell collection. Right now, Elaine is partnering with the city to install 5 new trail signs along the new section of Mill Park. Partnering with the City and Garden Club of Georgia for a textile exhibit at the Trilogy Houses. That's supposed to happen later in this year. And then there's a Cultural Arts Center grant that was done to produce Rucker the Lost Dog, which is a book that we created. That's being turned into a puppet show for the 2019 series. And we provided photographs for the mayor for her article, Preserving Roswell History. And an intern was hired to help process the King collection into the archives. And ongoing all the time is the digitization project, which is getting all of this stuff on the Digital Library of Georgia. And just as today, to kind of give you what the asks are from the archivists, today we received an email from the Sandy Springs Heritage House. They're doing a women's textile exhibit later in the year. They don't have a collection. So they've asked if we can help fund some of that and provide it on loan. Some of the stuff that we have to help with their exhibit, again, that will start in about October, is roughly what they're planning on. So our online presence is a driving force of our recent surge in patrons. To kind of give you some numbers around that, over 400 visitors to the Research Library and Archives for 2018. And then currently right now there's about 4,042 photographs available online. But people that are using it, professors, writers, genealogists, local teachers and students, obviously city employees, residents, and they're coming from surrounding areas as well, Alpharetta, Milton, and Johns Creek. And I'll end my slideshow as we always do with the expand and renovate the existing Cultural Arts Center. We feel this is the best solution currently right now in the near future. Improvement of the current facility is much cheaper than a new construction. Potential for corporate events and with expanded meeting space, restrooms, and kitchen area. Will allow addition of exhibit museum area for Roswell Historical Society. And it creates a more cohesive cultural center for both business, residents, and visitors alike.
Does council have any questions?
So I don't know if this question would be for you or more for city staff, but have we looked into what the high-level costs of doing this would be?
So this comes back. I know this original one was done, we pulled it out of the archives. Originally was 2003. There's been some updates throughout the years. And then at our mid-year presentation we did a couple months ago, I think Mayor said at the time when this got presented before, it was due to budget.
Sure.
Which is the case with most things. But if you're looking at budget versus finding a space, ground-up construction, what does that all entail? Because currently right now I think we have multiple groups vying for the same space. And how big does that space get? Our current ask is just to have a space to display stuff so we don't have to go to outside counties to kind of show what we have. You know, when citizens have to drive now to Roswell or Sandy Springs to go see an exhibit, or they have to go to Alpharetta to see an exhibit, we would like it to be housed here. So.
Yes.
If you look at that, the study, which I think that's where it came from, it's about $17.5 million.
$17.5 million? Okay.
Additional questions from council? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing no hands up, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
And now we've got the historic Roswell Beautification Project. Okay.
Let's see. There we go. Hello. My name is Renee Shirley, and I am the Executive Director of the Historic Roswell Beautification Project. And our mission is to create, maintain, and preserve the beauty and charm of the historic district through streetscape projects, as well as encourage business owners to take better care of their outside space. Thank you guys for partnering with us again this year to improve the overall image of the Roswell Historic District. Investing in the HD benefits businesses as well as city government. Having a beautiful and clean streetscape will demonstrate to those who visit us or who just pass through that our city is well managed and its citizens, business owners, and city government take pride in, care for, and invest in their historic district. A beautiful Roswell Historic District streetscape can encourage spending. It can improve citizens and visitors' overall experience in our town so that they'll come back and bring their friends, and it can encourage civic involvement and pride in our town. I thought before we talked about our new projects that I'd give you a quick recap of things that we've done this year and still working on. So you'll see Barrington Hall wall, bench restoration, Roswell Square lighting, Elizabeth Way tree replacement, planters and baskets, and weed removal. Let's start with the Barrington Hall wall. This is before and after. As you can see from the before and after photos here, cleaning up this wall made a huge difference in improving the streetscape at the corner of Marietta Highway and Atlanta Street. We didn't realize how beautiful those crepe myrtle trees were until we uncovered them. And think about this, wouldn't it be beautiful if these trees were lit at night? Bench restoration before and after. Most of the benches on Canton Street needed some TLC. Some of the slats were rough, cracked, and many of them had moss growing on them. They were dirty, and a couple of them were falling apart. We're still working on these benches. Our carpenter is taking the benches apart, sanding, staining them, and sealing each slat, and then putting the bench back together. This is a very tedious process, and we're about halfway through with it, having completed 11 benches so far. Some of you guys might ask why we felt this project was necessary. These benches cost about $2,000 each. They were an investment by the city and the people who donated them in memory or in honor of someone. So we felt a need to repair and protect them as well as enhance their beauty so they'd be around for a long time and enhance the streetscape of the historic district. Roswell Square lighting. Roswell Square is a jewel in the HD. We wanted to highlight the beautiful old trees in the square and offer a soft lighting on the sidewalks. We also installed uplights for the flags and at the end of the square facing Marietta Highway, and we also replaced the lights in the fountain. Elizabeth Way tree replacement. Initially, our plan was to remove the 2 declining sycamore trees at the corners of Elizabeth Way and Canton and the other one at the corner of Elizabeth Way and Highway 9. Replace them with trees that would better suit that space and thrive in that location, and then construct raised planters around them for protection and seating for pedestrians. Before we pull the trigger on such a huge undertaking, we decided to try and save these trees, applying a slow-release fertilizer and other nutrients. We've also pruned them, trying to make them as attractive as possible, and school is still out on how pretty we can make these trees, but we're going to keep an eye on them and see how they do this spring and summer, and then we'll reevaluate in the fall. Planters and baskets. The flowers were beautiful this year. Huge thank yous go out to all of our citizen volunteers and the help that we receive from city employees to keep the plants watered. We also owe a huge debt of gratitude to businesses on Canton Street: New Kent Capital, Commonwealth Financial Planners, the Hagen Center, Provisions, Vinings Gallery on Canton, Nine Design, and Blueprint Oncology Concepts. These companies let us use their outside water to keep these plants alive. We have two 20-gallon water tanks, and we fill up each one of them 4 to 5 times per watering day to do the whole street. And that's a lot of water. Beginning in late April, we watered these baskets and planters every other day unless we got lucky with rain. In the fall and winter, my prayers kicked in. We got more rain than we did in spring and summer, and so we didn't have to water the fall flowers hardly at all. We appreciate the help from the volunteers, and we also appreciate the city employees who helped us on the street when we didn't have volunteers, and also those guys who took care of the plants in front of the heart of Roswell Park and Roswell Square with Parks and Rec. We're once again asking for assistance in FY 2020, and the fall and winter flowers are scheduled to be removed and replaced with spring summer flowers no later than the first week in May. Weed removal and mulching. Several areas down in the restaurant area especially needed weed control, still does need weed control. We have a landscape company that we're working with, and they're helping us every other week in the spring and summer to keep the weeds down. And this is the mulching before and after. You can see what happens when you pull the weeds up and add a little bit of mulch. It looks a lot better. For FY 2020, our funding request, we're asking the city for our continued projects, which are the planters and baskets and mulch and weed control, is $31,040. And our new projects I'm going to talk to you about, we're asking for $24,810. So our total funding requested from the city, we're asking for $55,850. Those are the continued projects, planters and hanging baskets, $25,440, and the weed control and mulching, $5,600. Okay, in FY 2020, new projects include, but are not limited to, these projects. We want to have some decorative banners. We would like to do something with the East Alley streetscape, Elizabeth Way storefront landscape project, holiday decorations, and streetscape improvement program. And those total $24,810. Decorative banner project. We'd like to install welcome to the Historic District decorative banners on our light poles that have banner brackets. These banners would stay up all the time, and we would designate other banner brackets for special events such as Black History Month, the Azalea Festival, Roswell Alive, all of those other events. They would still have their banners up, but these Roswell, Welcome to Roswell, would be up all the time. The three that you see here are just pictures that I took last year of places that we had been. Old Colorado City, downtown Idaho Falls, Historic District of St. Anne's Hill. And then the last one is one that I kind of put together. That is a draft. It's not a final thing. The Historic District wording needs to be larger. Maybe the color could be different. Maybe the font up above that says Welcome to Thee could be different. But it gives you an idea of the type of banner that we're talking about. Something that could welcome people into the city and, just make a statement about who we are and welcoming people to the city. So that's that project, and that is $3,910 is what we're asking for help with. East Alley streetscape renovation. Okay, you look on one side of this slide and you see what it is like now. On the other side, down at the bottom, the top, you can disregard the top slide. That's a different idea I have for something else. But down below is an example of a mesh screening that I wanted to talk to you guys about and see if you could help us with that. The city spent a bunch of money on East Alley, moving the utilities underground, installing pavers, upgrading the dumpster site, and other improvements made a huge difference. However, the businesses that back up to East Alley have not made much of an effort to improve the back of their establishments. As you can see from these photographs, or if you've been back there lately, the back of these establishments do not leave a good impression or represent what we want our historic district to look like. I don't want to look at that. That's not my historic district. We have an idea that would shield this unkempt area. We propose installing mesh artistic screen fencing that would camouflage this area. That screening there is actually a mesh art. It's mesh art. Behind that fencing is a landscape company that has pallets and dirt and stone and that sort of thing. But in the front of it, you don't see that because you've got this that camouflages it. That's what we're talking about putting in the back of East Alley. It would be installed onto link fencing at the city right-of-way, and the fencing would incorporate gates for each business for ingress and egress. The artistic screens could consist of artwork, such as that slide that I have here, or it could be photographs of old historic Roswell. It could be, something that we could have an artist from the art fund, maybe we could contract with someone to come up with some beautiful art back there. So we have a meeting with the Historic Preservation Commission next month to discuss this project in further detail. And estimates for this project are in the $10,000 range. And we are asking the city help us fund this project with $5,000. Elizabeth Way storefront landscape project. These are photos of Elizabeth Way shop fronts. This area goes from being totally bare to being totally overrun with weeds and brush. There's only one shop front that takes the initiative to make this area look better, and that's Vining's Gallery. For FY 2020, we're proposing to install landscaping in front of Go With The Flow, and then down at the other end, pull out all of the weeds and brush, remove the old cross ties, and landscape the area to improve the appearance of this sidewalk. We're asking for $4,000 to help with the cost of this project. Holiday decorations. We'd like to install holiday decorations on the light poles in the historic district. These decorations would consist of those like the slide with the garland down the pole that you see on this side of the slide. The poles would be wrapped with garland and topped with bows, and we would also have Christmas decorations like the ones you see there, the balls, the red and gold balls or green balls. The decorations would go up the week before Thanksgiving and come down no later than the second week in January. We would be leasing these decorations. They would be professionally installed, maintained, removed, and then stored in the company's warehouse. Leasing these decorations would give us the flexibility of changing them from year to year. We wouldn't have to store them. So we think that leasing these decorations would be better in the long run. And that project is $6,900. The last project I want to mention to you is a streetscape improvement program that we would like to start. These are all photographs of buildings in the historic district. We want to create the Historic Roswell Streetscape Improvement Program, and this is a program that would be designed to assist property owners with improvements to the right-of-ways, facades, and alleys that comprise their shared public space. While these areas are the responsibility of the property owner, they impact perceptions and contribute to the experience of residents and tourists. These would be improvements to the outside of their establishments and eligible improvements such as sidewalk repair, exterior cleaning, exterior paint, landscaping, window replacement, projects which would enhance the beauty of the historic district streetscape. The process for project approval would include a written application, review, and approval by our board of directors and city officials, and then after the project is done, it would have to be inspected and approved. We're budgeting $10,000 for this project, and we're asking the city for help by contributing $5,000. So, with all of that said, this is what we're asking for. We're asking for $55,850 for FY 2020, assistance from city employees, flowers for hanging baskets and planters, weed control and mulching, decorative banner project, East Alley streetscape renovation, Elizabeth Way storefront landscape project, holiday decorations, and streetscape improvement program. And I encourage you to go to our website, hrbproject.com. Check us out on Facebook, Historic Roswell Beautification Project -HRBP, and please email me if you would like to talk with me further. Have any questions, suggestions, ideas, want to donate? Want to just talk?
Council have any questions?
The water?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So what is your total budget?
The total? My total budget?
Yes, please.
The total budget that I'm asking for the city is, what was on that slide?
No, not the total budget you're asking for the city. Your total budget between private contributions and the taxpayers' contribution. What would be your total budget?
Last year, the total budget was about $93,000.
And
This year, it depends on the other projects. There's a couple of other projects I'd like to undertake that I haven't asked the city for help with. Those would be used for private donations, in addition to the matches that we're talking about here. One of the projects that I would like to see is a mural on the wall down at Go With The Flow. Right there, you know, that big, beautiful, blank gray wall, beige wall. I would love to work on that this year. I don't have a price for that, but, so I'm not putting that in the budget yet because I haven't worked on finding out how much that would cost, because we have to go through HPC, we've got to determine what kind of art, we've got to get an artist, so I don't know what those costs would entail. Another project that we would love to do, if we can get the private donations, is to light Heart of Roswell Park. So we've been looking at that, and we have some estimates on that. It's under $10,000, but I don't have it all broken out as far as I don't have my budget for all of those projects listed.
So what were you estimating for 2020 then?
For FY 2020, it'll be less than 92.
Thank you.
So
Yes, sir.
First off, I just want to say I think the community, really, the people of Roswell are so fortunate to have you and to have your organization doing so much. Both all the work you've done, the real care, as well as the fact that although you're asking money from the city, you're also raising money and explaining the cost. So I think we're also fortunate for you. I guess what I'm kind of curious about is I look at a lot of the examples. It seemed to me like some of them were clear that it's just really in the middle of city property, just really in the, couldn't be declared to be, the responsibility of any business owner or anything like that. But it seemed to me like there were definitely some spots, although technically in the right of way, that it was clearly right in front of a certain business. And I guess what I'm curious about is has the landowners, business owners, whatever, all of the above, ever been approached and kind of discussed the fact that there's really this great nonprofit that's really cleaning up the front of their property? Because I'm just wondering, some of them might just say thank you and not want to talk. Others might perhaps decide that they actually want to help out and do it as well. Has that conversation been had at all?
When we're walking down Canton Street and watering the plant, the owners will come out and say thank you and that sort of thing, but not really volunteering. Some of them have given donations. I can tell you that I did talk to all of the people on the East Alley, the back of East Alley that I'm so concerned about. I talked to a lot of those shop owners, and I emailed some of them, and all of them are extremely interested in doing something back there. So I wanted to get a feel for how, even though it's right, what I am wanting to do is put it on the right of way. It still impacts them, and they still want something done, but they're just not doing it. But I mean, I wanted to get their, so to speak, approval to try to get something done before we kind of pull the trigger and just said, this is what we're going to do. So, I talked to a lot of businesses, but not, to answer your question, specifically, no.
Because even an example actually that I see is in the pictures. I'm not sure for example, in front of the antique shop. It looks like perhaps some of the weeding and the mulching you're doing is actually beyond the right of way, which again is great for the look of the city. We're so fortunate to have you doing it, and at the same time, it's property that I wonder if the owner was aware you were doing it, if they would want to either contribute or help out or something.
Yeah. We walked in there and talked to them about it and asked them, and some of them, some of them will talk to you, and some of them, like the art gallery in front of Vining's Gallery, when the steps were messed up, and the city had to put a barrier across because the city couldn't fix it because it wasn't city property, and the businesses wouldn't fix it because they thought it was the city's. And so we approached them and said, we'd be happy to do that if you would give us a donation. And 2 of them gave us a donation, and it was like 1/10 of what it cost. So, they're willing to help, but some of them, they don't want to pay for the whole thing. And our idea is that, if we could raise the money to do it, to make the historic district better, then we want to do it. I mean, we think it's the city's responsibility, but it's also the public's responsibility as well. And so we're willing to try to raise those funds to make the historic district better, because I think in the long run, it makes all of us look good. And when I have friends and relatives and business people come into the city, and if I took them back around to East Alley, I would not do that, because I wouldn't want them to see that. That is an impression, that's an image that I don't want them to see, because it reflects on me. And so our board of directors feel that it's worth it to invest, and even if it's not in the city's right of way, it's a good investment. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. There's no question that you're doing a great service to the city. It's just I also like the idea of you not having to have so much on your shoulders, and having some of these owners putting some weight on their shoulders as well.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for all you do.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for all you do. I mean, that makes such a difference in the historic district, and really appreciate your investment of time and energy and know-how, and kind of helping bridge the gap between, what the city can do and what the private business owners can do. It makes a big difference.
That's why we're a partnership.
Great.
Additional comments from council?
Renee, I had some guests in from out of town this past weekend, and they looked flowers and asked who does that. Those are so beautiful. They were very impressed with what a lot of rain can bring us.
Love the rain.
So thank you for everything you're doing, Adam.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the public have any comments, questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we are on to the Historic Roswell Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me. My name is Andy Williams. I'm Executive Director for Visit Roswell, the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I will jump right in. A lot to cover. So we're shaking things up a lot at Visit Roswell to really kind of catch back up and be a good bit more competitive with some of our local competitors, but also those regionally. We're doing 12 different things that are really going to kind of catch us back up to speed and put us into that categorization of competing against some of the smaller players that are about our size, but some of the bigger players as well. All new collateral, a geo-targeting campaign, search engine optimization, targeted marketing and niche marketing through customized campaigns that we're designing, customer relationship management software or CRM, aggressive film and production recruitment, taking advantage of the incentives that exist already in Georgia, trying to get that business up here for more productions in the Roswell area, packaging, working with our hotels to actually develop getaways to generate weekend business, corporate business taking place during the week, and really just being creative in those different aspects. Sponsorship, having our sales team have a greater presence when they actually go out and generate business opportunities at trade shows and local events, regional events as well. An enhanced visitor experience, which starts in the visitor center for us. Enhanced photography, so really going in and focusing more on experience-based photography and not just, the person sitting dining al fresco on Canton Street, but really showcasing some of the different things that people can do in a more immersive, experiential type of way. As a second part of that, videography, really incorporating high production videography content that elicits emotion into people and really drives them to want to visit a destination like Roswell. And then aggressive sales and trade show attendance so that we actually go out and are able to cultivate those opportunities through those relationships. So divided out into buckets here, total request is $1 million for this year. The two areas I'd like for you to focus on that are going to be the biggest uptick are general advertising, the way that we actually market our destination and go after business, and then sales and marketing promotions, which are some of these new projects that we're actually creating. I put this in here just to showcase really where we stand geographically in the center of some competitors to the north of us and to the south of us. We spend a lot of time talking about Alpharetta and then the perimeter area with Dunwoody and Sandy Springs. Even based on the requested $1 million, you're still looking at CVBs that are competing with 80%, 70%, 230% larger budgets compared to us. At the current $695,000, they're outspending us with budgets of 159%, 144%, and 374%. So it's just not apples to apples currently. So you can see the buckets here: payroll and benefits made up of salaries, retirement, health, dental, and vision, benefits, SUDA, Social Security, and Medicare. Administrative expenses, which cover our rent, telephone and mobility, audit, Smith Travel Research reporting, which is what we track hotel occupancy on, bookkeeping, payroll services, cooperative marketing, advertising. We buy into the Georgia Department of Economic Development Camera Ready program. This is how we get leads for the production companies, so it is a pay-to-play program. The Hospitality Highway program that runs from Buckhead all the way up to Dahlonega, that's a cooperative marketing agency where we are able to market, again, in numbers better as an actual corridor destination. And then the Atlanta Metro Travel Association partner. So those are the different communities that are made up around the Atlanta area, and we have a bigger presence marketing-wise through these partnerships. General advertising. So this is made up of website maintenance, our graphic design for our ads we place, new campaign creation so that we're able to do some really high-end targeted niche marketing, our print ads that we place both on a local scale all the way to a national scale, and both with digital as well. Paid social media, targeting specific people that we would like to come here and we know are coming here, converting those into repeat visitors. Contracted with influencers, getting people into town that can blog about us, post on Instagram, and really generate some good excitement. And again, our photography and our videography overhaul. Then sales and promotions. This covers our dues and subscriptions to organizations like Meeting Professionals International, some of those different industry professional organizations that allow us to generate business opportunities. But again, trade show attendance, sponsorships at those trade shows, familiarization tours, bringing in traveling media, food critics, things like that to write good editorial on us, our mileage and traveler, a geofencing campaign that I'll talk about here in a second, our promotional materials and our collateral, so what's actually going out to folks, printing, and then our CRM. So the areas that warrant additional investment, I'll talk a little bit more in depth. We are not doing much in the way of digital right now. So we've been doing things that were really print heavy in the terms of marketing, and that's just not the way to go after people anymore. So geo-targeting allows us to actually communicate in real time with people we know are in the area. It also allows us to communicate, for example, if we don't want to communicate in real time, we're able to shoot them a text message out 6 months later and remind them to come back. You can do this in a number of different ways. We can geo-target our local hotels to let people know that we've got a lot of different attractions, dining options, nature options, things to participate in. We could geo-map Avalon if we wanted to and set up a virtual perimeter to let people know, hey, 6 miles south, you can come to Roswell as well. And also, we can geo-target feeder city markets. So, for example, if we wanted to target Greenville, Savannah, Chattanooga, Birmingham, we could set different perimeters around in various locations throughout those cities and communicate with those folks and remind them that we would be a good day trip or overnight destination for them. That is a larger big ticket item investment, but something that would be much needed, and I would guarantee our competitors are doing that to the people who are coming to Roswell right now. Search engine optimization, that's also something that's not currently going on. We are in the process, we actually kicked this off today. We are going through a full-scale redevelopment of visitroswellga.com, and it's going to be an edgy website, something that's probably never been seen before, but it is going to drastically change the way we tell our story and the way that people search for us. And as a part of that, I would like to invest in a $2,000 per month search engine optimization strategy with the company that's developing the website to really drive business to us, and not only organic business, but also more strategic approaches to get people onto our site and moving around. The third is really aggressive trade show attendance and sponsorships as a part of that. That's something we're also not taking advantage of. On the sales side, we need to go to different shows, whether it's corporate, association focus, or wedding focus. We need to be out there. We need to be saturating with our brand. We need to be generating RFPs as we develop those relationships with those planners. And in addition to that, we need to be telling our story from the lectern. That is currently not happening, and there's a tremendous opportunity to actually go out and be aggressive and generate that kind of business. Photography and videography, again, a total overhaul of photography and videography. Right now, people aren't necessarily responding to words, they're responding to images, and you don't have much time to catch their attention. So showing experiences that really elicit emotion in people is something that we're going to be focusing on. And again, that goes right into videography. Instead of just showing, the couple kind of having fun on the river and strolling down Canton Street, having it be a lifestyle campaign where we're telling the story of the people who make Roswell what it is every single day. You know, what it's like to actually open up a brewery when the sun rises, and what it's like to actually open the doors to Table in Maine when folks are coming in. So a big opportunity there to really kind of take that to the next level. And then a customer relationship management software. This would be for the sales team. Right now, everybody's just kind of working in Excel, which makes it hard to track and hard to keep everything organized. This will allow us to implement an extranet where we can communicate with all of our local partners, whether they're restaurants or special event venues and hotels. Also to track what the ROI is in the booked business, to show what our lost business is, and also to basically be able to communicate much more efficiently with those that are here in Roswell and those the types of businesses that we are going after. So it's an organizational tool that is also great for reporting on our end, and most CVBs have something in place. This would also go through the company that we've contracted for our website. So a lot of information, a lot of really big things that we want to do. I want us to also understand that we're not just focusing on competing against our friendly neighbors to the north and the south. There are a lot of communities that wish they had 25% of what we have in this town, there's no reason we can't compete against Savannah, Chattanooga, Birmingham, some of those feeder cities I mentioned, and play right there with those folks. They are going after the exact same people that we're going after, and we have just as much, if not product, if not more product than they have, just on a smaller scale.
Council, any questions? Yes.
I think this is more of a question for Mr. Palmer than anybody else, or maybe the finance group. I know there's it's going to be, if we get our change made to our hotel motel tax, there's more money coming into the city for that, which I think some naturally flows over to CVB. It would be good to know here in the future, while their increase looks like a big number, how much of it is already funded from increase, how much of it is funded from the change in the rate, and then how much is really incremental that would be needed to meet this number.
And also, how much of a shortfall is there in the hotel motel tax fund?
Right. You got to balance. The county has to balance.
Right.
We'll get that info out to the council. I just think that would be interesting and probably helpful for these guys too.
Yes, sir.
So I think some great action items. So great presentation. A couple different questions I have for you is one. So you talked about what you're thinking from a geo-targeting standpoint, and interesting enough, my first thought when you gave the first example was people staying at Roswell hotels, which I was kind of thinking we've already got them. They're visiting Roswell. But then it sounded like you definitely had a lot of good ideas on actually getting people that aren't in Roswell to come here. That's kind of my reaction there. A question I have regarding, it's kind of a high level question regarding the local market comparison, where you named three neighboring cities that spend a lot more. Do you see them doing anything different that we're not doing, or you see them doing the same thing but more of it? What do you?
I think they are in positions where they are, with the funds they're working with, they're able to map out the entire year, and I think they know that they can be extremely aggressive with what they're doing. And I make the statement kind of, we're being outspent probably 2 to 1, 3 to 1 in some cases. So we know that if we place an ad, Alpharetta's going to have 2 or 3 ads. We know that if Dunwoody places an ad, we might not be able to go into that same publication, or if we're doing it digitally, we might not be able to invest as much in it. But I think in cases like them, they're just able to do more with more on a monthly basis, and I think they're able to really be aggressive in mapping out the entire year, month by month. I will say that their product is a little bit different. They've got some of the big box hotels where they're able to focus a little bit more on going after group business. And that is something that I see coming online here in Roswell, and that's the exciting thing. We know we've got the makeup that where we can actually have those hotels, and they would do really well here. We just don't have a lot of the full service hotels that allow us to be particularly aggressive there. But it's important to remember too, we need to be selling Roswell as a destination for group business 2 or 3 years before the hotels come. It's all about, when it's time to get the RFP, we need to be able to put them somewhere.
And then another question I have is regarding general advertising. Now, does the CVB have the ability to just do any type of advertising or any goal advertising that they want, or is it purely everything you're doing here with these different bullets? It's purely just to get tourism in Roswell. Is it kind of more focused that no matter what, anything you're doing, it's purely on this one single goal?
Well, I think we always look at what's the type of business that we want. And that type of business is made up of a number of different market segments. We know that social is big here for group business. We know that we've got some group tour business, but there could potentially be a shift away from that. And then we know that what we want to really focus on, and particularly to answer your question about one of the things we're doing, is developing niche campaigns to target different target markets. I think we have a huge opportunity to sell our historic assets to generations that aren't just baby boomers. I think there's an opportunity to bring cool factor to those, to package those up, and to be really creative in how we go after and advertise to those different markets that are going to bring business here. Our number one goal, I would say, the old saying was, you can place all these ads and we can talk about the impressions and we can talk about the reach, but it's hard to track the ROI. There are mechanisms in place now where you can track the ROI. We had this conversation the other day. Everyone has an online and an offline profile where if we really wanted to get specific, especially with some of this geo-targeted marketing, we can track you by your credit card spend. So we can place a certain ad campaign with a new technology, and we can tell you who spent money on Canton Street dining out at the end of the year. And we can tell you, based on spending $80,000, this generated $3.4 million in economic impact. It's the way we track advertising in terms of tourism has grown tremendously even throughout the last decade. So it is going to be harder, a lot easier for us rather to be able to show legitimate return for what we do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions? Yes.
Can you speak more about the geotargeting and geofencing? And is that an opt-in thing? Is that a situation where you're buying data from some of the big app providers? What is your vision on that?
Yep. So there are different companies that do it different ways. It used to be that it was an opt-in. So, for example, you would develop an app and you would come to the visitor center and say that you wanted to be talked to that way. Now, because so much information is already online, it's not really necessary. We don't keep any information, and the third party that we'd be contracting with doesn't keep any information. It just lives out there on a cloud. So we're still able to communicate to the people based on their data, their cell phone data that's out there, based on their location to where we actually set up the digital perimeter. And that's exactly how it works. They're going to come in, say we wanted to map Avalon. They would come in and go around Avalon and set up a virtual perimeter. There's no footprint to it whatsoever. There's nothing physical. And then we would tell them, hey, everybody that crosses through this threshold, we want to send them a text saying, come back to 6 miles south to Roswell and get 15% off your bill at Salt Factory Pub. So there's not a data or any kind of privacy thing that needs to be concerning, and the contracted companies have all of that good information they can share to put us to rest, put us to ease on that if we would like that information.
And so the channel is SMS, right? That means typically they're going to get a text.
In this case, it would be yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure, within the general advertising budget, and I assume this is part of your process, that there is an overall overarching brand marketing identity strategy that you've put together with objectives and
absolutely
setting.
Yeah. And what we'll do, we'll sit down and we will map out the year. That hasn't really been done in the past. I think we know kind of what the buckets of where we want to spend and who we want to target. When fiscal year 20 hit, when July 1st hits, I want to know what we're doing all the way through the end of June. And of course, we'll leave a little cushion for remnant rates and things that pop up where we can really take advantage. But we have a creative strategy. We have a cohesive brand strategy as a part of our campaigns. Those will all tie in to our image, what we look like and how we tell a story, everything down to the actual copy and the verbiage we use in our advertisements.
So for me, this might be the most important money we spend. I think this impacts every one of the things that are being presented tonight, and us telling us our story of who we are and how we differentiate from all the other cities around us. You say often, well, we've got the river and we've got the historic assets and we've got this and the other cities don't. And telling the story more complete not only brings visitors, it's going to bring business, it's going to allow us to invest more in arts, showcase our arts, allow our downtown historic district to thrive, all those different things. So to me, this is probably the most important money we spend because we are behind and we need to catch up and surpass them as we start to tell our story and our brand and tell about the people who live in this city and the businesses that are here and our history. And so very exciting stuff.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments?
So,
Yes, sir.
what is your vision regarding business and recreational visitors? Where do you see more opportunity? What the city will need to do to focus on one or the other or both of them? What is,
Absolutely. I love this question. Yeah. We have a lot of tourism assets that are driving people here right now. When you talk to people about Roswell, they get extremely excited. You don't really meet a lot of people that say, we don't like coming to Roswell. Everybody loves Roswell. The big opportunity for us to generate business for the city is in group business, and specifically in corporate and association business. So we do very well on the weekends, that Thursday through Sunday pattern, but Sunday through Wednesday is really when we can get that corporate and association business. And what I mean by association is the Georgia State, Association of Realtors, Georgia Cooking Association, Georgia Barbecue Association. These are people who, by their membership bylaws, have to have membership meetings every year. Usually those are 4-day, 3-night patterns. And they come with a food and beverage minimum, and they are buying out hotels. So for us, it's just a matter of the new product that comes online that allows us to aggressively go after group business that's going to fill those rooms in that meeting space.
Okay.
And there's a big opportunity for it, and it would change what we do as a bureau.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak or ask a question? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank
I
y'all.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Next up is Roswell Inc.
You. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. In your folder, you've got our budget, our proposed budget for 2020. First of all, we'll start with the city funding. Total operating budget will be $817,000. Our projected private income, which will be 32% of our budget this year, will be $257,000 from the private sector. $560,000 is our ask, which is 68% of our total operating budget from the city. Our industry support is about $80,000, a little over $80,000. Economic development, which you can see included in your packet, is a little over $81,000. Communication, $68,500. Administration and staffing is $587,000, which gives us our total budget of $817,000. Here you can see the city funding broke out and the private funding. And where we raised that, that's the $560,000, the $257,000. Hospitality, here's a breakdown of the industry support and what that 60, again, we are asking for 68% of our budget. And I'll remind you that 8 years ago, we were at 100% of our budget came from hotel motel tax. So we continue to move that needle to the private sector. Our goal is to be at 50-50, and that's a true partnership. Hospitality, Restaurant Week, the Summer Sippin' Program, will continue to focus on the craft beverage industry. You will hear very shortly that we will have the first distillery in Roswell announced, along with the first brewery that was announced. That company will be making that formal announcement. Actually, Roswell Inc. will be. So those are the exciting areas. We know that that brings revenue to the city. It also brings, as Andy knows, the tourist, the day traveler, which we need. Business and support resources. These are software programs that we use daily that help us understand who's on the ground. Our real estate and outlook development, that's where program is where we bring in real estate developers and real estate experts on the commercial side into the city of Roswell every year. All of you are invited to that event every year to meet those folks. It's an opportunity where the mayor got to speak this past year and interact to say, we're open for business. We want your business, and we want you back in Roswell. Retail studies, our 6 corridors, we continue to do that. We had a briefing in this room in July, and we'll have an update on those 3 corridors. There's 6 corridors we call them nodes within the city that's studying retail and what that looks like. And we'll break that down even to the point of, as Andy said, we understand where people are shopping, where they're going, and where they're coming from in the current retail environment that we're in Roswell. The economic development, you'll see 2 things that we've added to this list that we think are very, very important. Andy's job at the CVB is to put heads in beds. Our role is to make sure that we find the flags, the developer, and get the hotel here. One thing Andy left out, Alpharetta has 26 hotels. We have 13. And if you'll remember, we reported back to you that when we did the hotel feasibility study 3 years ago, with partnering with Georgia Power, we brought 4 hotels to the table. We have 3 under construction right now that will add to our hotel business. When we found that through that hotel survey and that feasibility study that our largest employer was not reimbursing for hotel rooms in Roswell, we technically had a very big problem. In Houston, we had to stop we had to find the hoteliers that will be reimbursed. So you have 3 flags, Westin, Spring Hill, and Home 2 Suites that they will reimburse for, and they will be on the ground adding to our hotel motel tax. So we're going to update that feasibility study. At that time, when it was released, it said we could add 5 hotels today because that was bleed off that we were losing on the business sector. That's not even the visitor, that's just the hotel sector for business. So we know that by updating that feasibility study, it puts us back out there in the market. It tells the people that we're interested in a hotel, and it also shows the need. So we will update the feasibility study. A new market analysis on new office construction. We know from our the Skillet project, what that will do for the downtown business environment by building office. But we'll also go in with Jones Lang LaSalle and we'll do a study on where we need to be building office and what that looks like. And with the new transportation realignments for 400, we know that that's going to be a hot opportunity with the Northwest Quadrant, the Southwest Quadrant, and what that looks like. We need to be able to have that facts and those informations and partner with the right folks. Advertising will continue to advertise Roswell business. We want people to know we're still open for business, and we're always going to be open for business. We want to support what Andy does, professional services and contract, and you see our printing and equipment that we use. Staff-related costs is about $402,000. We also are looking for new space. We believe it's hard to do business, and the mayor made a good point at one of our meetings back in December. You know, we're on the private side. We need to find space. We need to be looking for space that is relevant to the business that's in Roswell, and that needs to be entrepreneurial. We're no longer tied to the city lease in that building, and we're on the private side. So we are aggressively looking for what that space will look like, to be in the right space, to be positioned to show Roswell to the business community, and that we're all about business and helping support the businesses that are on the ground. I remind you, there's 5,800 businesses in the city of Roswell. We're open to all 5,800. We're here to help not just the large employers, but the small guy, the mom and pop, the business that's working out of their home. We're here to help them support themselves within the city. We can't run their business. We're not here to run their business, but we'll give them all the tools to be successful within the city. State of the city. Where do we get our private side and funding? State of the City is one of our big events. Most of you were there. You saw there were over 55 companies represented that were here investing in Roswell, that are here, that invest daily in Roswell because they bring jobs, they bring commerce, they bring sales tax and property tax. Our Economic Development Alliance, that's 12 companies that pay an additional fee to be a part of what they are invested. That's the hospital, that's the banks. There are companies that are invested, highly invested, Georgia Power. Event hosting, we do a lot of networking events that are for Roswell businesses only. Those are the events that are our connects, our evening connects. We have one annually here at City Hall. Our event participation is right at $25,000, so that's $257,000 we will raise from the outside to bring into the bottom line. Our projected hotel collection for FY20 is about $1.5 million. That's according to Ryan and his department. That includes the 8% that's going to come in, the opening of the 2 new hotels in the 4th quarter. We believe that the Westin will be the 3rd. It will be the 3rd, but it will be more in the line of midsummer of 20. So those are the numbers. That's where we're at. I'm open for questions, thoughts. We also gave our first annual report, which we're really proud of. We've submitted our annual report because part of the thing that we hear all the time is, who is Roswell Inc.? What does Roswell Inc. do? Well, it's our job to make sure that we're showing the taxpayers' return on investment. And in that annual report that we released this year at the State of the City, it shows the return on investment that the taxpayer gets. And it's a 2-to-1. And we think it's very important to continue to invest in the business community because the business community is going to help us grow and help defer our taxes for the future. So that's in your packet too also. So that.
Questions from council? Yes, sir.
Yes.
So I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One, so I think a great presentation, and I think you're providing a very great and important service to the city. We definitely need our economic development. I'm very passionate about wanting more office here, more jobs for Roswell residents. So I guess just one question I have, and I don't expect an answer right now, but I do ask you, you take it back and think about it. Is there any additional support you feel you could be getting from City Hall? So just think about it. Is there
Sure.
anything on here, whether it's something that perhaps there's some small item in here that you actually feel somebody at City Hall could be doing for you, or just something not even in this presentation, but you feel there could be more support, then I'd love this mayor and council to hear that, because I want to make sure you are getting the right support. So that's one question. The other question I have is, so I definitely, as you knew ahead of time, your audience, my ears perked when you talked about the office study and looking just for more locations, opportunities, et cetera, which is great, and that requires office developers, and I completely understand you're discussing with them. What are the types of services that you'd provide to not commercial developers, but residential, the ones that are building multifamily buildings, townhomes, et cetera? And so it's not much?
None.
Okay.
And because they're businesses, they're ran-like businesses. I'll give you an example. Lennar, not their multifamily division, but their residential division, their corporate headquarters is located in Roswell and Holcomb Woods. It's about 200 and some employees. We support that business. They don't have currently, they have a project in Litchfield, in the back of Litchfield, that crosses over Cherokee County, but we don't support that residential piece. Why? Because we're not in the residential business. We're here to support those businesses that are in Roswell, like Lennar, that's been here for quite a few years. If they're located here, we're going to help support them. Stanley Martin, we don't support them other than they are here and they have an office and they have realtors here. Are we going to help them do business? Yes, if they can do business. But we're not here to help them locate their residential piece on the ground.
So then with your overall budget of $817,000, it's fair to say that there's not money in there's not support going regarding developers of residential.
No, we need developers. Now, obviously, we're going to support S.J. Collins, right? Because they're going to hit the ground with office and the pieces that we know that we need for the city. But we're not, our focus is in making sure that businesses are successful and that we're supporting Roswell businesses.
Thank you.
That answers that question.
Additional questions?
So, regarding opportunity zone, what do you need from the city to either maintain what we have, or because I understand it's about to expire?
That's a great question.
And
Yeah, let me answer that.
Expand the opportunity zone.
So the mayor has been fantastic in reaching out and working with DCA, with us, with Alice and her staff, to look at what, again, the Department of Community Affairs is the organization that runs the Opportunity Zone for the state, along with the Department of Revenue. It's a two-pronged. You would think that it was also Economic Development, the Department of Economic Development. They have most recently, under Governor Deal, been added to that mix. But prior to 2 years ago, it was all ran by the Department of Community Affairs, because the program is to incentivize businesses and blighted areas within the state. We took a bold move in this building 10 years ago and declared blight in Roswell. Our neighbors to the north and south cannot say they did that. They had that same opportunity as we did, and we created the largest opportunity zone in the state. With our sales efforts, we sold this to more businesses than any other opportunity zone in the state. We have over 200 companies taking full advantage of that. The mayor helped us with the conversation of, we were the first ones at the table, because it's a 10-year program that will sunset. It can't be extended. It sunsets. So we went to DCA, we had these conversations, and we said, come to Roswell and tell us what we need to do, because we've got certain developers and certain companies that own property here, and they're concerned about their opportunity zone expiring. We had those conversations, and we're in the process of putting it into Alice's budget, what we're going to need manpower-wise. We have to do our, help me out, Alice. Urban redevelopment plan, because that's required by the law to apply. And what we will do is go back in over the next year and a half and look at the opportunities of where we can bring the opportunity zone back and reapply for a new opportunity zone in those areas of Roswell that are still blighted, still meet the criteria of the DCA and the economic development, because now it's the state commissioner for economic development and the Department of Community Affairs that have to sign off on it. And you as a body and a council, elected a council, have to present that and ask for it. And that's the big difference here. So when we come back in about a year, DCA's already been out here. We can't come any sooner. They were already like, you guys are the first in the state to come say, hey, we need help. And we are. And we're saying we want the opportunity zone back, but we won't get it in all the areas because it did exactly what it was set out to do. It moved the needle from 78% occupancy in that area to 92%. And that includes retail and office. That's a big percentage. And that's really been an advantage for Roswell, especially for older shopping centers. We talk a lot about shopping centers being empty, but when you look around, the ones that are empty, they're empty on purpose now. It's not because they truly are not being marketed. So, for example, and I throw this out, the Target shopping center is not in East Roswell in the Opportunity Zone. The Target shopping center on the west side is not in the Opportunity Zone. But the Opportunity Zone is fully managed and in the Marshalls, where the Marshalls has moved. So they're able to take full advantage of new hires within that shopping center. That's a big bonus. That's a big advantage. So those are things we need to look at as we move forward in the next year. Where are those opportunities? And the data will show that. And it'll show where we know. So when you ask, what are they? That's a great piece because that's a required piece that we're going to need from the city. And again, the mayor's been out there leading the charge on that.
Thank you.
And I want you all to know that it is a true partnership.
It is.
Because there are some things that we are suited to do. There's some things that Roswell Inc. is suited to do. So as a team, hopefully we'll just get it done.
Yep.
Additional questions from council, comments? Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Seeing no hands up, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.